What was the last thing you learned? And did you learn it by yourself, by trial and error, or did you learn it from others? By participating in a massive open online course, for example. One of the great advantages of living in a group is that other individuals can serve as a source of information for learning. The phenomenon of learning by observing others is known as social learning. Social learning can be a smart strategy, as it often gives the same results with less time and energy than individual learning. But a combination of individual and social learning can also be used. For example, when learning about novel feeding opportunities. Griffon vultures are scavengers that rely on finding dead animals over a wide area. Although sometimes individuals will find a fresh carcass by themselves, the majority of the time individuals find food by following others. A chain of social information spreads from the first bird that spots the food to birds further away, which cannot directly see the food. Instead, they use the descending behavior of other vultures as a source of information that food is nearby. When the performance of behavior of an individual acts as a releaser for the same behavior in others, and so initiates the same line of action in the whole group, we refer to it as social facilitation. Information about important resources and threats, like food and predators, can be facilitated by the presence of others. But also the acquisition of special foraging skills can be learned. A famous example originates from the first half of the previous century. In some isolated areas, blue tits learned to puncture the foil tops of milk bottles and eat the cream on top. That this behavior initially only occurred in some isolated areas strongly suggested that this new skill was socially transmitted. Still, there are several mechanisms possible to which the social spread could have occurred. Individual blue tits might have observed other blue tits opening the bottles and imitated the behavior. But more simple mechanisms are also possible. For example, merely the presence of a blue tit near a milk bottle could have stimulated individuals to more closely investigate the milk bottles and find out how to reach the cream by themselves. This mechanism is known as local enhancement. And not even the presence of others is required for social learning to take place. The traces conspecifics leave behind, such as opened milk bottles, can be enough for the novel behavior to propagate. This is referred to as stimulus enhancement. To be able to conclude that birds learn to open milk bottles by truly imitating each other, it is thus not enough to only observe the birds. To understand the cause of the social spread, it is necessary to perform an experiment. Using black-capped chickadees, researchers showed that individuals who observed another bird opening a cream tub were equally likely to open the cream tub afterwards compared to those that were initially left with just an opened cream tub. Observing another bird was not essential to quickly learn the new behavior. Social learning to access new food resources is common. But animals can also use others to learn behaviors that help avoid predation. Wild juvenile black-tailed prairie dogs that were exposed to a predator together with an experienced adult showed more anti-predation behavior when alone than juvenile prairie dogs that were together with an inexperienced sibling during the same predator exposure. Furthermore, when all juveniles were released back into the wild, juveniles who socially learned anti-predator behavior from experienced adults were more likely to survive. Although social learning in general can thus be an adaptive strategy, it's not always used by every individual in a group. In a social learning experiment with pigeons, a number of individuals indeed learned to perform a new foraging behavior. But other individuals just scrounge food produced by these birds instead of learning the new behavior themselves. The likelihood of social learning can also be influenced by the social status, age, sex, or personality of an animal. When you are not strong or competitive enough to scrounge food from others, social learning might be the better strategy. It is important to realize that social information can also be wrong, which can result in individuals learning maladaptive behaviors. Humans are very well known for adapting maladaptive behaviors, like crossing a road when the light is still on red, because the people in front started moving. So many animals can learn from others. But can these others then also be seen as teachers? Evidence for teaching in animals is quite scarce, mainly because for a long time psychologists defined a teacher as someone who intends to give a lesson. And intention is something extremely difficult to determine in non-human animals. Now, a new, more testable definition of teaching is used, with 3 criteria. First, an individual has to modify its behavior in the presence of naive individuals in such a way as to facilitate their learning. Like me, giving this lecture. This is not something that I would be doing if no one was watching. Second, a teacher should incur a small cost, such as having less time for other activities. And third, students should incur a clear benefit, such as performing the socially learned behavior quicker than when they would have learned by themselves. Especially this last criterion is very difficult to fulfill because many observations in nature, especially those that involve parents teaching their young, not have control situations, such as a parent not teaching. Until now, teaching has only been clearly demonstrated in rock ants, meerkats, pied babblers, and superb fairy wrens. But given the diversity of the species just mentioned, there's little doubt that accounts of teaching in many other species will soon follow. I hope I also fulfill all the 3 criteria of teaching, and that you will experience a clear benefit from these lectures.